The Maxx Crosby trade conversation is back, and this time it comes with a name that could make sure it never becomes reality. A Hall of Fame quarterback just went public with what he sees in Fernando Mendoza, and it is not something this fan base should take lightly. Another pass rusher is being pushed as a target that fits this defense right now. And the new offensive coordinator just told the world exactly what Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers look like up close, and the answer should have Raider Nation locked in from day one. If you bleed silver and black, stay right here. What Kurt Warner just said publicly about this franchise quarterback should tell Raider Nation everything about where Fernando Mendoza is headed. And it started not with a highlight throw or a big arm, but with a question. Raiders offensive coordinator Andrew Janocko revealed in a recent interview that Mendoza has been asking questions this offseason that the coaching staff had not thought about in years. Not just absorbing the system, challenging it, asking why things are done a certain way, pushing the staff to evaluate whether there is a better approach, and doing it with enough knowledge behind him that the questions carry real weight. Janocko said it directly. Mendoza is making the coaching staff evaluate everything, and the result is that they are finding ways to be even better than they already were. That is not what you expect from a rookie quarterback in his first offseason. That is what you expect from a veteran who has been in a system for years and has earned the right to push back. And then Kurt Warner stepped in. Two-time MVP, Super Bowl champion, one of the greatest quarterbacks this league has ever seen. Warner took to X and revealed that Mendoza trained at his house years ago, and that the biggest message he hammered home was exactly what Mendoza is doing right now. Take ownership of your offense. Always ask the why, challenge everything in a good way, and have the knowledge to back it up. Warner said very few quarterbacks have the conviction to do this because they are afraid to step on toes or offend their coaches. Mendoza is doing it anyway. And Warner made a point that every single person in Raider Nation needs to hear. There is only one person with the ball in their hands when it matters, so you better be completely comfortable with what you are being asked to do. That is the mindset of a franchise quarterback. That is the mindset this organization has been waiting years to walk through that door. Mendoza is not just learning this offense, he is making it his own before he ever takes a regular season snap. The Raiders have cap space, and one of the best remaining free agents available is Jadeveon Clowney, a 33-year-old edge rusher who recorded 8.5 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, and 4 passes defended in just 13 games for the Dallas Cowboys last season. Those are not the numbers of a player who is done. Those are the numbers of a pass rusher who still has that it factor that changes games and changes the math of opposing offensive coordinators every single week. And the Raiders have $24.4 million in cap space right now to go make this happen. Let that land for a second. The money is there, the need is there, the player is there. The only question is whether this front office picks up the phone and makes the call. Here is why this move makes more sense than people are giving it credit for. The Raiders' defense is built around Maxx Crosby on the edge, and Crosby is the best pass rusher on this roster by a significant margin. But no defense can survive long-term relying on one player to generate pressure every single snap. Opposing offenses know where Crosby lines up. They scheme around him. They slide protection his way and dare the rest of this defensive front to beat them with someone else. Clowney is the someone else. A player who recorded 8.5 sacks in 13 games demands attention from offensive coordinators the moment he steps on the field. Put him across from Crosby, and suddenly this pass rush has 2 problems that cannot both be solved at the same time. The Raiders did use a third-round pick on Kieron Crawford, who showed real promise at Auburn with 5 sacks and 9.5 tackles for loss in 2025. But Crawford is a rookie who needs time to develop at the NFL level. He is not ready to be the number 2 pass rusher on this defense right now. Clowney is. At 33 years old, with no signs of slowing down, on what would almost certainly be a short-term deal that fits comfortably under this cap, this is the kind of low-risk, high-reward move that this front office should be jumping at. Raider Nation has been waiting for this defense to have 2 real edge threats. Clowney is right there waiting for the call. Mendoza is challenging this coaching staff to be better before he takes a single regular season snap. And this defense still needs another edge rusher before week 1. So here's the question for Raider Nation. Do you want this front office to sign Clowney before someone else does? Or do you trust the young pieces to hold down that second edge spot? Drop it in the comments and subscribe if you are not part of this community yet, because the next story brings the Crosby trade conversation back, and it needs to be addressed head-on. The depth at defensive end is a real concern, and the name being pushed now is Haason Reddick, a two-time Pro Bowl pass rusher who had 11 sacks with the Philadelphia Eagles as recently as 2023 and is currently sitting in free agency after down seasons with the Jets and the Buccaneers. The Raiders traded away Tyree Wilson in the draft and used a third-round pick on Kieran Crawford, leaving this roster with just 6 defensive ends total. 2 of them are rookies. One of them has played just 2 games in the NFL. That is not a depth chart built to withstand a full season. That is a depth chart 1 injury away from a real crisis. And Reddick fits this defense in a way that makes the conversation worth having. The Raiders are switching to a 3-4 base defense under Rob Leonard, and Reddick has experience playing outside linebacker in exactly that kind of scheme. Maxx Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz have not played much 3-4 at the NFL level. Getting a veteran in that room who is comfortable in the system and knows how to win from that alignment gives this defense something it genuinely does not have right now. At 31 years old, Reddick should still have juice left, and at this point in free agency, he would almost certainly come cheap. Now here is where it gets more complicated, and Raider Nation needs to hear this part too. Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer put the Maxx Crosby trade scenario back on the table this week. His hypothetical is the same one that has been floating around. 9 games in, Crosby is playing at an elite level, Raiders are sitting at 1-8, and the calls start coming in on their own. Breer still believes Crosby starts the season in Las Vegas, and that both sides intend to move forward together. But the possibility of a mid-season trade is not off the table, and that makes the edge rusher depth conversation even more urgent than it already was. If this defense loses Crosby at any point this season, through trade or injury, and there is nobody behind him capable of generating consistent pressure, this entire rebuild takes a massive step backwards. Reddick is not the long-term answer, but right now, he might be exactly the bridge this defense needs to stay dangerous, no matter what happens on the other side of the trade deadline. The offensive coordinator for this team has already seen enough to know exactly what he has, and Andrew Janocko is not hiding how he feels about it. In a recent interview with Raiders.com, Janocko was asked about Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers, the 2 most explosive weapons on this offense outside of Fernando Mendoza, and his answer was direct and genuine. He called them 2 huge competitors, 2 guys who are pedal to the floor every single minute they are on the field. He said if this team gets an hour of work, Jeanty and Bowers give everything they have for that full hour. If they get 30 minutes, it is 30 minutes of everything they have got. He said those 2 do not know another gear. They only know how to go and how to work hard. And then he said something that every person in Raider Nation needed to hear. That kind of attitude sets the pace for what this offense wants to be and where it wants to go. That is the foundation of a winning culture. 2 young playmakers who do not need to be motivated, do not need to be pushed, and do not need to be reminded what is at stake. They already know. Janocko also talked about the history of this franchise in a way that felt genuine rather than rehearsed. He grew up respecting the silver and black, the logo, the shield, the organization. He talked about the Rich Gannon years, the Super Bowl run, the wins that made this franchise one of the most iconic in the league. And he made clear that returning this team to that standard is not just a job for him, it is something he genuinely cares about. He is still figuring out the offensive coordinator role, and he was honest about that too. But the way he is approaching it, supporting Kubiak, building around the players, problem solving so the play caller can focus on executing, tells you this staff is operating the right way from top to bottom. Raider Nation has been waiting for a coaching staff that actually respects what this franchise is supposed to be. From everything Janocko said, this one gets it. Mendoza challenging the coaching staff, Clowney and Reddick available while this edge depth stays thin, the Crosby trade rumor refusing to die, and Janocko already blown away by Jeanty and Bowers. 4 stories, 1 question. Does this front office have the nerve to sign the pass rusher this defense needs before week 1? Or are we going into 2026 with what is already on that depth chart? Drop your take in the comments and share this with every Raiders fan you know, because this one belongs to all of Raider Nation. Mendoza is making this offense his own before his first regular season snap. Clowney and Reddick are available while this edge depth stays thin. The Crosby trade conversation is not going away, and this front office needs to answer it with action. And Janocko is already watching Genty and Bowers go all out every single day. Two competitors setting the tone for what this offense is becoming. This roster is not done, but the foundation is real. Drop your take in the comments. This space belongs to everyone who lives by just win, baby, and never walked away from the silver and black.